I think I just had the best month of my life. It wasn't the funnest. I didn't make the most money. I didn't meet the most people. And actually, I think most other personality types would probably have hated the month I just had. For the longest time, I wanted to save up money by working as a web developer, and then I wanted to quit and start my own business. I had a huge plan to change the world with a startup. But along the way, I discovered passive income, and I thought if I owned some properties and got rent money, I would actually be able to have an infinite runway to be able to start the business and iterate as many times as I wanted until I found something that worked. The problem was I hated real estate. I rented out a house to a tenant who didn't take care of things. That was a huge stress. I felt tied to the area at a time when my opinion was changing about so many things. I couldn't really act on it in my life because I was stuck physically in the place. In my second house, I had a lot of roommates, and some of them were extroverted, very loud and annoying, and I genuinely, they're good people, but I hated it. I hated living there. It was torture. I had imprisoned myself and and given myself torturers. It took me way too long to realize that real estate wasn't the thing that I should do. And the key moment for me was just a deep feeling of dissatisfaction that drove me to re examine every part of my life. I remembered something Jordan Peterson had said, that sometimes the thing that's holding you back is the thing that you value the most. So I loved the house that I had bought. It was perfect. It had plenty of parking, amazing yard, a really good view. It was close to a lot of mountain bike trails. It had lots of space, and it checked every box that I was looking for. I actually decided to buy the house within 2 days of seeing it. At the time, I had no job, and I got two job offers 9 days later after I was already under contract, basically. So I bought the house very quickly. It was just perfect. But for the first time, I considered selling it. What if that thing that I loved the most was preventing me from progressing? And it was. So I finally realized that I should just invest in stocks because you can do that with an app, Robinhood, okay? And it's so much more down my alley. I understand the macroeconomy a lot better than how to maximize rent money. I hate maintenance. Like, it was just a way better fit. I understand technology. Anyway, but passive income is just interest, and rent is just one form of that. So if you invest well, no matter what you're investing in, you're going to be getting passive income. So I sold both of my houses and bought Tesla stock and some ARK Invest. Unfortunately, I had only a small amount in Tesla before the huge run up in 2020. But at the end of 2020 is when I was able to sell my first house because I had a contract with my renter. I should have broke the contract and paid him whatever because, anyway, there are a lot of things that I wish I'd done. But my second house, after 2 years, I was no longer going to pay capital gains tax, and luckily Tesla had gone down a bit by then. So both times I bought Tesla stock, it was at $680, and right now it's over 800 for some reason. It should be around 1200, but anyway, it's competing with lower risk investments right now because the Fed is raising interest rates, but that's another topic. Anyway, so I have now all of my wealth in the stock market instead of in houses, and I'm free to move. But I sold my second house to my sister, and she was giving me really cheap rent. So I continued to live there, and her kids are loud, and I had a roommate, even though he's one of the coolest roommates ever, and an INFJ, and a developer as well, web developer. But I just I've been extremely restless for 4 years. I bought both houses in a growing area, Eagle Mountain, Utah, and it was one of the fastest growing cities in the country. and I knew it was a good investment, so that's why I bought both of them within a mile of each other. But it was like on the outskirts of Utah County. I felt stuck. My stress was high, and I couldn't do anything about it. Once I sold my house, I was free to go wherever I wanted to go. But for a few months, I just stayed in my second house because of the cheap rent. So anyway, we get to this month. I still don't know what I wanted to do. I still didn't know what I wanted to do, but I needed to do something. I needed to go somewhere and be alone. So I just went to southern Utah, St. George, where the weather was good in January. Like every day it's been nice. It's like 50 degrees in the middle of the day when it's like 30 degrees up in Eagle Mountain. So it's been awesome. I've been doing a lot of mountain biking and just basking in solitude. It's been amazing. And I can't believe I waited this long to do this. I've basically been around people nonstop for 4 years. This has been an enormous stress relief. Enormous. I haven't been this happy in a long time. Again, it's not because of all the fun stuff I've done, just the fact that I'm not being tortured anymore. It's one of the best months I've ever had. Anyway, so I've taken a step back and I've looked at everything in my life, and for the past few months I've been trying to find co-founders because I quit my job. I technically retired, even though I'm kind of doing some contracting because Tesla stock keeps going down and I need to buy more. And plus I didn't really have any direction because I wasn't having any success finding co-founders, and I had a lot of general uncertainty. How can there's an old Chinese proverb that I keep thinking about. When it was 2015 and I was just barely getting started, I was going very fast. I learned web development. I taught myself web development. I was going very fast with the product and everything that I wanted to build. But the Chinese proverb, it says something like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I remember having a dream back in 2015 that strongly made me feel like I really needed co-founders. Like I needed to do this with people. But I haven't found anybody that I could do it with. So after the first week or two down here, I kind of started to figure things out. The thing is, I need to be around people. I actually do. But I was mostly around the wrong people. I keep thinking about the quote from Robin Williams where he said that he used to think the worst thing in the world would be to be alone, but he realized it was wrong. It was actually to be around people that made him feel alone. Aside from some close friends and family members, that was literally everyone where I was living. I grew up in Utah, and I still like the general culture here. If nothing else, at least they have a replacement birth rate. You know, they're not actively self-destructing as fast as other places in our civilization. It's insane. And I do still believe that the church is true, the church here. I believe that there is power in it, but that the members are weak and gutless, and that they're declining just as fast as everybody else. They're just 20 years behind. And they're Jordan Peterson has been a huge influence. I see how science and religion are connected now, that in a way that I never did before. I listened to his biblical lecture series and everything else. Jonathan also does a little bit, talking about the evolutionary advantage of religion, possibly. Anyway, it's insane how much good there is in here in Utah in the church culture, and yet how worrisome the trends still are. Anyway, so they're collapsing, but at least not as fast as other segments of Western civilization. That's about where the qualities end. In 2016, I realized that the vast majority of them, almost every single soul, didn't care about any single thing outside the walls of their house. I remember looking around and seeing a ton of, because the population growth is still occurring and we're in the desert, and it's like these boxes are being propped up that are all identical to each other, and they just look like things that were built in a hurry. These neighborhoods, these vast stretches of neighborhoods that all look the same. These bland tan colors, nobody really standing out, nobody having any opinions or caring or aesthetic eye. It's just, it's disgusting. It's disgustingly bland and uninspiring. Everything about this culture, like, and it makes me sad that this is like one of the bright spots. But like the walls of their house, that's where their passion, that's where, if they even have passion, that's where their cares end. All they're focused on is making copies of themselves, and slightly worse copies at that. Every generation is worse than the last. They don't look around the world and they don't feel any kind of urge to do anything about anything. So 2016, that was around the time, that was around the first time I had tried to start my business to change the world. I was talking to a lot of investors. I wanted to change the education system. I wanted to use technology in a very particular way to set up something according to the theory of disruption that would gradually end up disrupting the traditional education system. I was deep in that world. I was listening to a lot of public figures talking about it. I read a lot of books. I had a clear vision, and I talked to investors, and nobody cared. Nobody cared at all. I talked to siblings and friends, to try to get anybody to even just lend me money, because I moved back with my parents to minimize my daily cost to, like, I don't know, like $10 a day, because I still had a car. I mean, a 2005 Honda Accord, but still a car. But I was just living extremely cheaply, and nobody would even lend me $1,000, even though I promised to at least pay it back with interest. And in the best case scenario, they'd own a percentage of my company. One of my siblings even told me that I hadn't proven that I could hold a full-time job, so he didn't really believe that I could do. Like, my family, like, they don't really understand me. It's okay. But, gosh, like, that's like the story of my life. It doesn't matter. But it's so funny. I can't believe the person who told me I was an ENFJ. It's incredible to me that he could doubt my ability to achieve things. That pissed me off. It made me laugh, and it made me mad. Because I was at my rope's end. I was running out of money, and I decided, you know what? How can nobody see how important this is? Like, since then, I've been a little bit red-pilled about the nature of psychology and the brain and beliefs, and I know that education isn't good enough, not even close. However, at that time, with living in the same matrix as everybody else and seeing the world, like, it's so obvious with the beliefs that the vast majority of people in our culture have, like the default cultural beliefs we have, that education is the key to everything. And to not care about it is insane. It's incredibly depressing and stupid, uninspiring, worthless. It's like most people are at best neutral agents in a world with impending disasters coming our way. It's just, it's aggravating. And anyway, so I'm a little more red-pilled since then. The problems are deeply biological. This isn't the first time a civilization has collapsed, so it's not surprising whatsoever. Like, most people don't even know basic history. It's crazy. Like, we have literally like a roadmap with so many incredibly detailed parallels between us and the Roman civilization, the last great civilization to collapse before our own. And everybody is just like, gosh, that's boring. What? Like, who cares? Whatever. Like, we can't even get people interested in the closest thing that looks like a prophecy of our own doom. Anyway, so I couldn't get anybody to invest. So I turned around and decided I'd just fund myself by getting a real job as a web developer and then saving my money, like I already mentioned in this, that I wanted to fund myself and give myself a runway. But that's about the time when I started learning how incompetent people are. Like, really incompetent to the core. So not only do they not care about anything, but the goals that they have, that they stupidly choose to have, that are all completely centered around their personal success and maybe something to do with their families, that they don't even have the basic level of competence to achieve those lame goals. Almost everywhere I worked, I ran circles around everyone while barely even focusing on work. I'd started to focus on real estate, and I'd been studying psychology and neuroscience on the side, and yet with like half my brain tied behind my back, I completely outdid everybody everywhere I worked. The first job, I started as a junior developer, and within 8 months, there was a new business analyst who had joined the team, and one day she came up to me and asked my opinion about something, and I had to tell her, you know what, I'm not the team lead. I like this doesn't like I don't have any authority on this. And she said, "Oh, I thought you were the team lead." And I was like, "What?" Because for some reason, I was on this ship. It was at a nonprofit. And for some reason, nobody cared about where the ship was going. Nobody was thinking about anything that mattered. We were tied to an old technology that was about to show, like, yeah, the old Angular. And nobody was talking about how to upgrade. So I started asking questions. I started planning. I started contributing. I started working occasionally extra hours, just here and there, because the stupid people from above came down and said, no, this isn't a priority for us. I'm like, is being able to hire good developers any kind of a priority for you in the future? Like, is being able to have a load time 1/3 of the time that you currently have, is that important to you? What is, like, who's making these decisions? Every time the can is being kicked down the road, and I'm just going to screw this. I'm not going to ruin my own career by investing in an old technology, which by now the support is complete. Like, within the last month, the support for that was cut off. Anyway, that experience also led me to my current opportunities, some of them, which I'm getting paid as much as, like, way more than I thought developers could get paid. But it's kind of a niche demand, upgrading from Angular just to Angular. So anyway, everyone was showing up to work every day with no passion and no care about anything we were doing, despite working for a nonprofit. Like, everyone there basically had told the people that they believed that they were going to change the world. And then they show up and they're like, meh, puts food on the table, puts food on my family. So I have no desire whatsoever to lead people. And I wish I didn't have to. I wasn't intending to lead anybody, but I was just the only person using my eyes and looking at where the ship was going, so I became the default captain. Just by default, out of an accident. Like, you can be in a room with a bunch of blind people, and then you're the only person that sees somebody, and suddenly you're a leader. It makes sense, but this is how it was everywhere I worked. Developers are... Anyway, so in the course of basically a year or two, I went from thinking that maybe 10% of the people wanted to change the world and about 40% were kind of competent, basically, to realizing that just about 0% of people care about improving the world at all. And close to 3% even cared about the extremely boring and selfish goals they did have, and that's about how many were competent to. And you have some people that care about changing the world, but their incompetence forces them to think about changing the world in the most mundane way that has never worked in the history of mankind. Like, a multi-level marketing scheme is not going to change the world. These little stupid things that people care about, they're not going to change the world. The only thing that is common that people want to use to change the world that I think actually has non-linear effects is health. But anyway, so I was just biding my time, and I met a couple of people that I respect a lot. They're not going to change the world, but they're at least pretty smart. But I didn't find any to be close to what I was hoping to find to help co-found a startup. In 2019, I realized that I needed to try to find somewhere smart people existed. I visited a friend in Palo Alto and realized that even though the people there were insane vampires politically, there was a kind of technological capability and drive to achieve that I never saw in Utah. I still haven't found people that I felt I hadn't found people that were similar, but I thought it'd be a nice change at least. And I'd made plans to move there. This was 2019, and I was about to get a job offer in March 2020. And obviously, California, March 2020. That's when COVID hit, and so that never happened. And then seeing everyone's reaction to COVID made everything 10 times worse. Like, however I thought things were, it would be a miracle to go back to that world. I had extremely low bar, an extremely low bar of expectations, and it just sunk under the floor, like through the ground, 100 miles deep. Nobody could think. Everybody had a lifestyle they wanted to live or make other people live, and any fact that they considered was judged only through the lens of whether it justified or didn't justify that desire. And the lifestyle changes people would have had to consider in order to objectively judge the facts that they came across, they were so slight that I realized that people's ability to adapt is negligible. They are stubborn children, most adults. I think that we are dumber and less capable than people who lived in medieval times at this moment. There's no self-restraint, no intellect, no integrity, even among the people, even among my family, people that I had grown up to trust. They were so incredibly dumb. One person in particular was telling me, we've already all had COVID. And then the next thing, like, there's always some next thing that wasn't proven yet that they said was outlandish and stupid and ridiculous, but because there wasn't solid evidence against it at the time, they were saying it. And then it just, like, people were on one extreme or the other, and there was just no thought. There's no actual thinking. It made me really sad. So I felt pretty alone in the world that I could clearly see and understand. I felt like I was the only one who was living in it. Everyone else was living in a dream. It's like I Am Legend with Will Smith and everyone's a zombie, or whatever those things were. It's more like walking around and everybody's sleepwalking. Literally everybody. Everybody. They have like glazed eyes. They're slow. They don't see the things that are right in front of their faces. It's kind of a nightmare. I still couldn't figure out what to do for a really long time. That was 2 years ago almost. But in general, I knew that I wanted to work with people who were focused on improving the world and who were intelligent. I need to find people. So I thought of a couple groups. One group was Jim Penman. So I made plans to eventually go to Australia, but Australia's been one of the worst countries on the planet during this time. They, evil and stupid. Extremely evil and stupid. Violating basic freedom of speech, just everything that is bad about the modern Western world was an extreme in Australia. I hate that country. They suck royally. Anyway, so I wanted to go there, but couldn't. Jim Penman, he does biohistory. He started biohistory. He had a PhD in history, and he started a lawn mowing business in order to fund his own research. So that's a mission-driven person. He's intelligent too. If you read biohistory, it's incredible. It's incredibly illuminating. It's too edgy and too sophisticated. And either one of those would eliminate 99% of people. And so it's an extremely small minority of people who actually understand it and read it and care about it. But he's trying to turn around the negative trends in our civilization and restore our culture to peak achievement. I talked with him a lot, and one thing that I need to do to be able to help is to get a master's in neuroscience. I mean, I'm making a lot more money these days, and I can donate a lot. He himself is donating over $1 million a year in research from his business, and honestly, he's like extremely. I want to be like him, but anyway, I don't feel any time pressure to help there, but ultimately I will be working with him more and more. I know I will be. I want to get a master's degree in neuroscience, and so that was one of the options I've been considering recently, this month, while I've been alone. The other group that I thought of was Tesla. Personally, climate change doesn't really matter to me. I think that there's a huge increase in biomass on Earth that is eating a lot of the carbon in the atmosphere. I haven't studied it thoroughly, but in general, I see that people are insanely politically motivated to hype up climate change like crazy, and many of the predictions, most of them, just fall flat and don't matter. And just people have a kind of religious fervor about it, and so I don't really care about that. I mean, there's a 1% chance, maybe. Even if there's only 1% chance, it's still important to care about. And so I would love to work for Tesla just for that, but I also hate pollution, and I love electric cars and the technology. I own a Tesla. I love it. And Elon Musk is an INTJ that I've admired for like since 2014, since I learned about him. I specifically found out about him because I was looking for influential INTJs that I could hopefully learn from. So that was awesome. He's one of the top 5 people I respect in the world. I'd probably consider myself something like 80% Elon Musk and 20% Jordan Peterson, but with a lower IQ than both of them. But like, that's not saying much because their IQs are extremely high. Anyway, so this month I've been here completely alone, and I was able to consider what I wanted to do with my life. Should I work for Tesla, or should I try to help with biohistory and do a neuroscience master's degree? And you know what? I've decided to do both because, first of all, Tesla is clearly going to change their mission. I believe it will focus on preventing the collapse of civilization from many potential threats, not just the economic collapse from running out of oil. They're getting into AI, and I think they will get into the birth rate problems and other civilizational threats. It sounds at first like something that you can't do anything about, the birth rate thing, but the problem is connected to biohistory and it's complicated, but I think that it will come into under the umbrella of their mission as a company as it adapts, because they're already adapting their mission with AI. But I know that I need to be around people. I need connections with people. I need to be working with people for the endurance aspect of progressing. In order to stay with something for a long time, I need other minds. I need people. I've been alone for so long. It's just crazy. But I remember how happy I felt when I went into the physics program at BYU, and I was suddenly surrounded by people who were more similar to me than I'd ever met before. Like, imagine being in negative 20-degree weather, and then you step into the foyer of a building, like an entryway, and it's like, oh, it feels so nice. It's such a relief. That's what I felt like when I went to BYU. It's like, wow, people who aren't actively destructing. These are people who weren't screw-ups in life. They got to college. Amazing. They were basically successful. Basically. It was such a relief compared to my high school experience, where I hated almost everybody. These animals that were cutting themselves and just demons. Anyway, sorry, pathetic, just sad, pitiful demons. I felt bad for them. At the same time, I stayed out of things, so I never really got bullied, but They still tortured me with their stupidity. But yeah, BYU was a huge relief. Finally, I was around basically adults. So that's like getting into the foyer. And then when I entered the physics program, it was like going right inside the door. They were still colder from the door. And so here's the problem with the BYU physics people. It felt like their greatest aspiration was to end up underground in some obscure laboratory studying some obscure concept and making obscure contributions to obscure areas. And that they would ultimately, the world would be almost the exact same as it was before they were born. And like there was, with all the opportunities to make a difference in the world, they're like just nerds. They just wanted to find puzzles to work on, and that's it. I mean, good for them. It's better than, still way better than most people, but still, just a bunch of nerds. That was it. So I thought that maybe engineers at Tesla will be more similar to myself, where they both are technologically capable, but they also care about making things better in the world. So I'm going to try to work at Tesla. I'm going to try for a long time. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get hired there. And I believe that eventually they will work on all threats to civilization. I think Tesla will be it will be like what I talked about. It will be down my alley. It'll be what I want to do. And it's like a compromise. At first, I won't be working on the problem I think is ultimately the most important one, but still important problems anyway. I think I might step away at some point and get a master's degree in neuroscience, and it just depends on how things go. But fundamentally, my people are technologists. Their focus is on improving people's lives, improving the world. Technology solves so many problems that we think are behavioral problems. It can cure disease. It can extend life. It can make life less suffering, less meaningless suffering. And I believe that it can make life sustainable and actually increase the religious tendency by helping people. It's too complicated to explain here, but anyway, I think everything is possible. That technology and truth, those are the keys to making life better. In so many ways. Health will be a primary avenue, and as a result of that, people will become more naturally spiritual, more spiritually healthy, less psychologically destructive, and short-term minded. And anyway, it pisses me off that people are so narrow-minded and scared of technology and uncaring about the progress that's possible, that they want life to be difficult in the dumbest ways. Like, imagine hating electric cars. Imagine being that stupid. Imagine actually being that dumb. People who are fighting electric cars are actually fighting against humanity's progress, and in many, many ways. Just because of the economic efficiency, that's only if that's the only area, people who hate electric cars are complete morons. So I need to go somewhere where I can actually make the world a better place, and I don't think I'll be alone at Tesla. Anyway, this is kind of a personal update to put on YouTube, but I think my thoughts are pretty similar to what a lot of INTJs might go through. I think I might make a video about 2 extra personality types that Carl Jung described. Mission-driven INTJs are one of them. And I think there are a lot of INTJs out there with similar thoughts to myself. And I think all INTJs would benefit immensely from doing what I've done, stepping away completely, taking a month to just be by yourself if you've been around the wrong people for too long. And not just an afternoon or a day or even a week, but a solid month or even longer. It's been a long time since I've been as happy as I've been in the last month. This cost me $2,500 for this Airbnb for a month. It was worth at least $10,000 to me personally. This was life-changing. I can't believe how long I neglected prioritizing peace for myself. So, the best case scenario, though, is to be with people who believe the things that you believe and see the world the way you see it. It's not good to be alone. The next best thing is, it's not being with different people. It's being by yourself. And then you can use the clarity when you're by yourself to try to understand who you are and what kind of people you want to be around. And that's what I've done. So I'm half expecting to be disappointed. Of course I am. I've never not been disappointed with people. When I go to Tesla, I expect there to be like half retarded people. But I'm hoping for something even a little better than when I went to BYU and studied physics. Today, I would be much happier if I were there. I was pretty happy when I was there. But ultimately, I'm just trying to maximize my happiness. I don't need it to be perfect. And if I end up alone in the end, I am totally okay with that. I've genuinely enjoyed the time that I've had over the last month. Got a lot of mountain biking. I feel healthier. I feel happier in every way. And I need to do this frequently. So, anyway. Yeah, I've listened to a lot of educational videos. I've brainstormed. I've discovered things about neural networks while preparing to work at Tesla and to make contributions to AI and neuroscience. And I have discovered profound truths I just can't even explain to people. Nobody that I know can appreciate what I found. The last thing I'd found was that a neural network architecture that proved that there are objective truths in the world. Not just... Anyway, it's hard to describe, but that humans don't have a super particular way of looking at the world, that any intelligent agent will look at the world in a similar way to humans do. And it has to do with spatial continuity and coherence and temporal continuity and coherence, and the fact that the borders around objects, understanding them, help you predict the future objectively. Anyway, so I should have done this a long time ago. I've discovered priceless insights, and I couldn't have done this with all the distractions. It took me 6 hours straight of watching AI videos, neural network videos, and then thinking about them and making audio recordings, talking through my thoughts, and just contemplating them, that I could not have done without this time. And so I've progressed a lot just from being alone. So, yeah, I'm going to do this regularly, and any INTJs listening, you have to do this too. Especially if you don't feel like you're around people who help you, who appreciate the way that you think about things, who appreciate truth or understanding things and the value that comes from actually being able to see things. You have to step away and at least have your own company genuinely for a while. And I'm never going to go that long again without doing this. Even if I'm married and my wife has a problem with it, I still, if there are issues and my wife's going insane, I'm going to step away. I need to be able to have this time. I'll have like a solid week or two and just understand things. Like, this is critical for me. I can't be happy without this. I'll see what it's like at Tesla. Hopefully I'll find people that aren't torturing me all the time. And yeah, I'm hopeful, but it's nice to know that if all else fails, I can always do this again. Anyway, so that's it. Goodbye.